Coronation Street, Becky Swain's reckoning. Coronation Street's Becky Swain is poised to accelerate her campaign to erase her ex-wife Lisa Swain from Weatherfield in 2026, a plan that curdles into something far more dangerous than she ever intended. Can Becky truly persuade her family to abandon everything they love, or will her obsession finally consume them all? Becky's return to the cobbles came wrapped in deceit. Presumed dead, she had quietly slipped back into Lisa's life, and into the orbit of young Betsy, nursing a conviction that fate had robbed her of a family she still believed was hers by right. Her voice, when she spoke of it, carried a fragile tremor, like a violin with a cracked string. Menacingly gentle, she instructed Carla to go to the Canary Islands. "Go," she said, the word falling like a blade, clean and final. Carla listened. She went. Lanzarote offered Carla the promise of air, of space to breathe for a few days. She vanished from the radar not because she wanted to be hidden, but because someone else needed her gone. Becky told herself she had reasons. They wrapped around her ribs like vines. A shared history with Lisa, a life interrupted too cruelly by death, a belief that safety meant possession. She wanted the family together. She wanted Lisa. She would do whatever it took. On New Year's morning, Becky watched from across the street as Lisa paced her kitchen, tension tightening the corners of her mouth while Betsy laughed at something Lauren said, then fell abruptly silent, as though she could feel the atmosphere change. Becky reassured herself that she was merely speeding things up, acting out of love. But the words rang thin against the shape of her actions. At first, the disturbances were easy to dismiss, a floral cushion slashed, a note on Lisa's doorstep, "You're next," written with careful menace. The police logged it as malicious but impersonal. Probably kids. At the Rovers, sympathy came in the form of warm smiles and mugs of tea. In public, Becky wore sunshine. In private, she sketched blueprints of fear. "People who leave don't get a say in staying," she muttered one afternoon, the sentence becoming her compass. She began nudging Lisa. A comment overheard at the bakery, a casual suggestion. "Spain's lovely this time of year, isn't it? Perfect for a fresh start." When Lisa flinched, Becky reached out with practiced warmth, feigning surprise at the shiver beneath her hand. Lisa tried to stay rational. Becky had lied. Becky had hurt her, but the heart keeps archives that reason cannot burn. There were memories of laughter in laundromats, of cheap curtains and a first, awkward kiss behind a supermarket. That history weighed on Lisa with every step, steadying her, dragging her down. And there was Betsy, 5 years old, wide-eyed, trusting enough to call anyone who loved Lisa, Auntie. It was there, in that precarious space, that Becky decided subtlety was no longer enough. Polite vandalism, anonymous threats, relentless gaslighting, all of it had teased. Now she needed a shove. The plan was not one clean act but a collage of small terrors designed to look larger than they were: staged break-ins, a prowler rattling windows, late-night calls whispering that no one was safe. Becky hired from the blurred edges of her life, people who owed her favors, or would. She told herself she was careful. Careful enough that consequences would be reversible. But chaos is greedy. The men she hired wanted more money. Forced doors left careless evidence, the smell of petrol on a match, a cigarette stub in an overstuffed bin. An old, temperamental boiler coughed and died in a way that could almost pass for an accident. And when threats turned into real danger, Becky's once steady hands began to tremble. The night it happened, the wind prowled the terrace like a living thing. Betsy slept in Lisa's bed. The house felt too large without Carla, while Lauren dozed on the sofa beneath a thin blanket. Becky slipped down the back lane like a ghost, still pretending to be gentle. She meant only to frighten him into leaving. She meant to leave a note, to whisper and cajole. Instead, a match meant to trip a fuse met something far more combustible. The flare was sudden, not an explosion, but a rush of heat that snapped Lauren awake and sent Betsy scrambling from bed, coughing. Smoke poured through the house like a lie. Fast, invasive, filling spaces it had never been meant to occupy. Fire. The word struck like stone. Lisa's instincts took over. She scooped Betsy into her arms, a reflex older than thought. The front door jammed, warped by heat. Outside, neighbors ran toward the chaos with buckets and ladders, because Weatherfield people do that, even when fear says otherwise. From the shadows, Becky watched, a flame igniting in her chest that she had never planned for. She had not intended for one of the hired men, jittery from cigarettes and cash, to fling a match into dry, ancient curtains. She had not planned for Smoke to climb into the attic, where insulation and wiring turned the house into tinder. She had not planned for Betsy's eyes to burn with bloodshot tears. Sirens wailed too late. Doors were kicked in. Wet coats and brooms beat back flames long enough to pull everyone free. Lisa emerged coughing, shrunken inside someone else's arms, the smell of smoke woven into her hair. And then, recognition, hands closed around Becky. How could you? Lisa's voice was a thread of smoke and fury, grief sharp enough to bite. Under the streetlight, Becky's face drained of color. Her explanations, once so carefully rehearsed, collapsed into ash. The truth unraveled quickly. Footage surfaced, a neighbor's video of an argument days earlier, Becky's voice urging someone to make it convincing, CCTV capturing a man taking a match from her hand. Within hours, the lies twisted into rope, ugly, undeniable. The police were measured, not cruel. Arson, conspiracy, endangering a child. Becky would answer to a court that did not care for backstories. When the handcuffs clicked, she looked ordinary. Hollow. Carla's return tore through what remained of the facade. She had been safe in Lanzarote, until a stranger in a hotel bar recognized her fear and helped her reach out. I'm coming home, Carla said. Home greeted her with sirens and a roof blackened like an open mouth. Betsy clung to Lisa. When Carla crossed the cobbles, she did not run. Each step carried judgment, resolve. The aftermath was quieter than the blaze itself. The house was damaged. The Rovers opened its doors with cots, hot food, and relentless kindness. Rita made tea and told jokes that were blunt and merciful. Patsy knitted a blanket so Betsy would have something warm that still smelled of the terrace. Trust, however, proved harder to repair than walls. Betsy flinched at matchboxes. Lisa stiffened when doors slammed. Lauren slept with the curtains drawn. Yet life edged back in, over enthusiastic suppers, neighbors who lifted boxes, community fundraisers that stitched the street together again. In court, Becky spoke of love, regret tangled with denial. I thought I was saving you. The words hung between them like ice. The sentence that followed was about protection, not vengeance. Lisa stayed in Weatherfield. With quiet determination, she rebuilt, paint, plaster, small practical acts that mapped a way home. Carla stayed too. They did not return to what they had been. Instead, they learned a sturdier way of being together. Justice arrived without fireworks. Consequences settled in the bones. Becky would have time to reckon with how love, once weaponized, becomes possession. Months later, the house smelled of soup, not smoke. On an ordinary afternoon, sunlight glittered in a bowl of water as Betsy and Carla folded paper boats at the sink. Lisa watched, cup of tea warming her hands. She noticed a small kindness and kissed Carla's cheek. No Spain yet, she said. No, Carla laughed. No cliffhangers. No tidy bows. Just Weatherfield, scarred, stubborn, alive.